We now listen to Peggy Clark, who is Vice President of the Policy Programs at the Aspen Institute, and she's also Executive Director of Aspen Global Health and Development. She's going to speak to us about reweaving the revolution. And she will speak for 8 minutes.
Thank you, Peggy. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to talk to you today about strangers. And as great as it feels to all be here together at Women Deliver, where we understand each other and we all have the same dream for women and girls, can't help but ask, who isn't here at Women Deliver? Who isn't here in our conference rooms and in our conversations? So I'm going to tell you 3 stories about 3 strangers. And at Aspen Global Health and Development, we often are in the company of strangers. We seek out unusual suspects, and we truly believe that linking disparate issues is a way to get major momentum and scale on some of the things we care most deeply about for women and girls. So the 3 strangers I'm going to tell you about, the first is the environmentalist, the second is the designer, and the third is the banker. The first one, the environmentalist, is actually someone who brings this home very close to me. This is the person who sleeps in my bed every night. This is my husband. He's a leading environmentalist, and he spends and devoted most of his life to addressing the preservation of the world's natural ecosystem. Now, he and his friends start so many conversations with the phrase, when the world's population reaches 9 billion. And then they go on to talk about the inexorable damages going to happen to the planet and the way that increasing population pressures will lead us into a state that is quite tumultuous. And in our family, we often call this the train wreck conversation. I say, we're going to have the train wreck conversation again. And it just leads forward into this ultimate disaster. And it's as if there's nothing anyone can do to stop the train wreck. So my husband has got this right, and I stand beside him as he bravely creates new markets for ecosystem services to address the environmental challenges we face. But he's got a really big part of it wrong. The world's population does not necessarily have to reach 9 billion by the year 2050. And we know this. We know this in this room. If we were able to provide voluntary family planning services to the people that want those services, we would possibly be able to slow the population pressures that are putting so much demand on our natural resource base. And interestingly, the very families that have the largest demand for family planning services are the same families that are most vulnerable to climate change, who face the most uncertainty in terms of weather changes, and who face the most uncertainty as far as agriculture and will increasingly fall into ever greater poverty. This next picture, we'll see if we can get it. Oh, there it is. This is the Rio Summit, the Earth Summit that happened just last year in June in Rio de Janeiro. And as you can see, this is a sea of dark suits. There's a couple of women there. You can see them by the colors. You can sort of pick them out by number. These are the men that are deciding the fate of our planet. These are the men who are making these decisions for us. Less than 15% of the delegates to the Rio Earth Summit were women. So let's invite the environmentalists into our revolution. Let's invite them in, and let's hope that they invite us to their revolution. The second stranger I want to talk to you about is the designer. This is John Kerry. He's a leading new designer, and I thought, like most people, design really doesn't have that very much to do with the world that we work in of development. But it turns out that good design can have very profound health impacts. John Kerry and a group of designers traveled with us to Malawi this January, where we took a delegation to visit our dear friend, President Joyce Banda, and support her in her revolution around maternal health in her country. And one of the cornerstones of President Banda's maternal health initiative is around waiting homes. Malawi, as you know, has a very high maternal mortality rate. These are women waiting in a waiting home in Malawi. It's very dark. It's very crowded. President Banda's initiative is going to create 120 waiting homes all across the country. This, by contrast, is Butaro Hospital in Rwanda. This is the Partners in Health Hospital. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. John Kerry's design firm helped to create this, and they work on what is called dignifying design, or public interest design. And as you can see, this really delights patients. There's a window in front of every bed. There are these huge fans that circulate air that help to reduce the spread of infectious disease. This is a place for caregiving. This is a place for healing. And so John Kerry and the Minister of Health's architect and the other members of the delegation sat together and looked at the plans for the waiting homes. And they saw that there were a few fundamental human things missing. There were no laundry facilities. There was no place for visiting family members to stay. There were no kitchen facilities. And so they talked together about making some very small changes that actually would cost less to the maternal waiting homes, which are going to be rolled out, 120 of them across the country. So let's invite the designers in. Let's invite the designers into our revolution, and let's see what they can bring to our movement. The very last, the third stranger I'd like to talk to you about, and many of you know this person, not as a stranger. This is Mohammed Yunus. He is the founder of the Reweaving Bank. He's a Nobel Peace Prize winner. He was the leading pioneer of the microcredit movement. And most of the people in the microcredit movement, the development bankers, don't think about themselves as related in any way to reproductive justice. I spent most of my life working in this field. Yet, we do know, and every single study shows, that a woman who has economic security is more likely to have control over her reproductive rights and to live a longer life and to live a healthier life. And so we need to think about how health and poverty are completely interrelated in a very, very profound way. Ill health leads to poverty, poverty leads to ill health. These things are intimately related. When the Reweaving Bank was founded 38 years ago or so, the first circle of Reweaving Bank lenders sat together on a dusty ground in a village in Bangladesh. And not only did they co-guarantee each other's loans, but they also committed to the 16 decisions. And these were decisions that they formed in order to help them get out of poverty. This is one of the cornerstones of the philosophy of the Reweaving Bank. And it might surprise you to know that 2 of those decisions were actually health-related. One of them was that they committed to have smaller family sizes, and the second is that they committed to try to reduce the practice of child marriage. So these are about health, but about health in the broadest sense, about that intimate place where health touches poverty issues and touches economic security issues. So while Dr. Yunus and the development bankers are no strangers to us, and we no strangers to them, I believe that we haven't fully reached out to them enough to tap into the potential and the capital of the new health insurance products they're developing, the new health venture funds that they're creating. Let's invite Mohammed Yunus into our revolution, and let's ask him to bring along the hundreds of thousands of microfinance institutions that are all over the world. So why is this important? The point is this. We are at an incredibly important moment in our movement, an incredibly important movement. And it's been a major factor in my life since I was in high school. The women's movement has been a companion to me forever. Let's call this the cross-cutting moment. And people are beginning to wake up to the fact that these issues are interrelated. The environmentalist, the designer, the banker. But why does it matter? Why does it matter that the designer or the environmentalist or the banker thinks of our issues as related to theirs? I'll tell you why it matters. It matters because our ability to frame and articulate our issues as cross-cutting really changes hearts and minds. It gets our issues on the agenda, it moves resources and money and power to our issues, and more fundamentally, it brings us scale and momentum in a way that we really need to move towards. It's often uncomfortable to work with new communities. We speak different language. We don't understand each other. I started by talking about my husband, who still doesn't understand that just investing in family planning would be a pretty good thing to do, although he supports me. But this is something that we really need to address if we're going to move to the next level of the movement. So the question I want to leave you with is, who are the strangers that you need to invite in order to reweave our revolution? Thank you very much.